Hello again, and welcome to our story time again. We're reading again, Chocolate Touch. I'm so excited to see what happens now. John just got done being in the cafeteria where all of his nice healthy foods turn to, yep, you guessed it, chocolate. I can't wait to see what happens next. Let's see. Chapter 8. English class passed without incident. Miss Primsel distributed word lists for her pupils to take home. The more words you know, she explained, as always, the more exact you can think. Ooh, what a great way to think of vocabulary. There were some difficult new words. John noticed avarice, indigestion, acidity, unhealthfulness, moderation, digestibility. As Miss Princeall explained the meaning of each one, it seemed to John as though they all had a special bearing on his present uncomfortable condition. At last the bell rang. "Very well, class," Miss Princeall said. "Time for outside activities. Good afternoon." "Good afternoon, Miss Primsall." Miss Primsall gave the signal for the dismissal, and the pupils in the front row filed out, followed by those in the second row, including John and Susan. Susan played a violin in the school orchestra, and usually she and John went to the rehearsals in the auditorium together. This time Susan hurried on ahead of him. John followed very slowly. The members of the orchestra were sitting at the music stands in the auditorium stage when John, carrying his dark blue trumpet case, got to his chair in the brass section. Mrs. Quiver had already begun to explain a difficult passage to the girl who played the flute. "Just after Jay sings, 'Nestlings chirp and flee,' she is saying, 'You come in with you,' and your trill, 'Do-lo-lo-lo-lo-lo-lo-lo. Do you see the place on your score? Good!' 'Ah, John,' Miss Quaver exclaimed, seeing him in his place, 'I'm glad you're not absent. As I have just told the others this afternoon, we're having our first joint rehearsal of my arrangement of A Boy's Song by James Hogg. We've been all of the individual parts and all the sections, you will recall. Now it's time to fit the pieces all together." John nervously opened his trumpet case and took out the shining gold trumpet from his bed of scarlet velvet. The beautiful new instrument gave him confidence. He worked the valves nimbly with his fingers and looked up at Miss Quiver again. "Now, John," she says, "tell me when your little solo begins." "Right after the end of the second verse," John promptly replied, and he practiced his part every evening in the basement at home for the last 2 weeks. He knew every note perfectly. After the line, "That's the way for Billy and me." "Good," Miss Plover said. "And don't forget what I told you, John. This is a happy song. I want you to play tra-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la, simply repeating the rhythm of the voice. And I want you to be light and lovely. This is supposed to be a song of a boy who loves romping in the country." Tra-da, 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 tra-da-da, tra-da-da, John thought. That shouldn't be too difficult, even with the whole orchestra listening to him. He had played it over and over again at home, but he would have to try extra hard here. This was his first solo. Everyone else was depending on him to play it perfectly. "Right," Miss Quiver said brightly. With her baton, she rapped twice and sharply on the music stand before her. All the musicians brought their instruments into playing position. Susan poised her bow over the strings of her violin. John held his trumpet close to his mouth and wiggled his fingers on the valves. This is going to touch his lips. I don't know what's going to happen. Do you? Miss Quiver's baton moved from side to side, up and down. The cymbals clashed and the drums thumped, and the pianist brought his fingers down on the lively keys of the piano. The violinist and cellist made their wheeling and whooping sounds. They were all in perfect unison. The rehearsal had begun. After the introduction, one of the older boys began to sing, "Where the pools are bright and deep, where the gray trout lie asleep, up the river and over the lake, that's the way for Billy and me." After the first line of the first verse, John's fellow trumpeter echoed the rhythm of the singer's voice. Ta-ta, ta-ta, ta-ta-ta, ta-ta. Miss Quiver smiled approvingly at the successful performance, and with her baton gave the singer the signal to begin the second verse. "Where the blackbird sings the lightest," and over went beep. Oh, that's what Miss Hicks played for us right before break. Where the hawthorn blooms the sweetest, where the nestling chirp and flee, the flute warbled according to plan. That's where the way for Billy and me. John wallowed with an effort and put the mouthpiece of his trumpet to his lips for the solo. The mouthpiece instantly changed to chocolate. Then almost as fast the chocolate spread along the instrument, changing all the flashing gold into dull brown. The first note came out fairly true, but chocolate trumpets cannot withstand much pressure. The hole in the mouthpiece softened and clogged up, and the valve stuck as John desperately tried to finish his part. Miss Quiver's eyes almost popped out of her head as she listened to him play. It sounded as though John were trying to play a soap-filled bubble pipe. Terribly flustered, he put down his trumpet. Mrs. Quiver was speechless. The orchestra was rocked by uproarious laughter. The other trumpeter leaned over towards John's chair and picked up the trumpet. "It's a chocolate trumpet!" he shouted diversely. No wonder! John looked so embarrassed. Oh my goodness, the poor guy. No wonder it sounded like that. John Midas was trying to play a chocolate. John didn't wait to hear any more. He fled from the stage and out to the playground. Without stopping even to look around, he ran through the stone gate and homeward. And that is the end of chapter 8. One more chapter to go. See you next time.